Yeah. Hi everyone! Welcome to Wednesdays with Whitney. I'm Whitney, and today we're introducing Lucy.
Hi!
Yay! So many of you have actually already met Lucy. If you were here for $100 headshots, she was the smiling face waiting for you in the hallway, helping you get ready for these quick 20-minute turnaround photos. So if you did $100 headshots, you're very familiar with the smiling face. Lucy joined our team back in late January. Yeah.
Sometime in January.
Yeah, that moment. So some of you might have seen the post. In mid-January, I had a moment where, well, actually I had it in December, where I was like, whoa, I need help. And I do have help. I have Rachel and I have Megan, but I needed someone like at the ground level. I needed someone to like check my emails and like hang out with me and like help me do my big dreams. And I realized that my dreaming had gotten too big for just like one person. So it happens. And I went on the look for Lucy, and I got a cover letter in the mail, and it was grammatically correct, which you would be shocked at the amount that are not. It was like this beautiful story of like who you were and like what you wanted for a job, in the job. And then she mentioned bacon.
Bacon. That's the key.
Bacon. It was key. And I was like, okay, we should meet.
Yeah.
And honestly, we had a phone call, and I was pretty sure I was going to hire her.
She called me like an hour later.
Yeah.
And was like, I love bacon too.
I was like, we have this in common.
Yeah.
So then our actual interview, which I was already very ready to commit, we both discovered that we live in the Drake neighborhood and that we could both walk to the library, like the bar. And we were like, that's great, let's do this. So we also discovered that we have an affinity for grapefruit flavored adult beverages.
Yeah.
And French fries.
Yeah.
So
Mid-afternoon greyhounds.
Yeah. So I think the fact that we liked to eat and drink together was pretty much the whole thing.
And mayo on the French fries.
And mayo on the French fries. I shouldn't be saying that out loud, but that's
Our
real.
relationship started with a lot of food.
As most of mine do. So welcome Lucy to the team. She's going to be in charge of handling a lot of my emails and just really being the infrastructure for a lot of the big things we do around here. Quick shout out before we get to the real meat of this. I got my Grid Shock shirt today. Woo! So thank you to Vanessa for sending this out. I was a donor to the Grid Shock project, which is moving forward, which is amazing. If you haven't already checked that out, find Vanessa McNeil. Grid Shock is going into production soon, and it is a documentary about the underground sex trafficking trade in Iowa. So if you haven't supported it yet, you still can, and I'll be wearing my t-shirt all day. So back to Lucy. So Lucy, you like joined, and I literally just threw you in.
Yeah,
to
that's
some
accurate.
things. So I'm going to ask you some questions you didn't know I was going to ask you.
Okay.
What was your first impression of being here? Like when you were here for a couple of days, what did you think about this place?
I immediately recognized that you never stop.
Yeah.
It's you're there first thing in the morning. You are always the last person to leave, and then you're working from home. So it's like, I get why I'm here now.
And since she has arrived, I'm working a little less.
Yeah.
I leave at like 6:30 every day.
We made a rule.
Awesome. Yeah, there was a rule made. And actually, that's one of the best things that has happened, other than the fact that you're amazing and we get along so well. But I mean, whatever. But I've been having to make rules for myself so that you can help me implement them. Because that was a huge thing that was happening, is that I didn't have any rules for my time.
Yeah.
And so we've been working on that. So thank you to all that have been, scheduling on our little scheduling app and following the rules that we're starting to set out. It's pretty awesome. So what else? Like clients, or like what's been the most exciting thing that you've been involved in since?
Well, for sure, the Dress for Success campaign.
I know, right?
That was incredible. And I think my previous job was in a very corporate environment, so being able to come here and do something so hands-on and like grassrootsy has been huge for me. It's given me a chance to kind of express my passions and
Well, and Lucy's an amazing writer. You'll get to see that later. She wrote a lot of the content for our Dress for Success blog. So you will also notice that a lot of my Facebook posts might be more grammatically accurate now. And that is completely and 100% due to Lucy's ability to reel that in, because I don't do that. So one of the big things, so she started like early February. Literally, I handed over the reins as I was leaving for Ireland, and I was like, just don't burn anything down and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I was kind of in here by myself for the first week and a half, but that was a good chance for me to go through your emails and figure out like what your process is and your
just
whole vibe.
Kind of get my life cleaned up a little for me. So, because a lot of those things, when I tend to be like a big idea thinker, and I don't necessarily get into the nitty gritty of how that gets done. So that's literally why I was like, I need Lucy. And you are very much a nitty gritty person. You're like details and attention to detail. It's kind of amazing. Like the questions you ask me, I'm like, I think about that stuff all the time, but I can't even vocalize it. So it's perfect.
We complement each other well.
It's pretty awesome. So one of the first big initiatives before Dress for Success, I mean, we planned Dress for Success. We had to get 7, 8 hair and makeup stylists on board. I think it ended up being 8 at the end of the day. 9. There were a few hair and makeup professionals that helped us with Dress for Success, and we had to coordinate based on their time schedules and how many people they could do in an hour. And we ended up photographing 12 Dress for Success women, so we had to make sure that we had people to help them, along with having the staff members. And I got this crazy idea that we needed a video. What? It's gonna be great. I can't wait to show you that. So Lucy found a videographer for me. Just like those things.
Made a spreadsheet.
She made a spreadsheet, guys. I don't
Whitney
do that.
to spreadsheets.
So she's chief spreadsheet officer at Ivory House. Like she's made like 5 or 6 at this point, and I'm just like, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
But really the first thing was $100 headshots.
Yeah.
Because I had, between Tuesday and Tuesday, I had 42 $100 headshot slots that were all filled. So not only was I shooting those, but I was doing viewing sessions for all of those. And right in the middle of that, I decided it was a grand idea to schedule this Dress for Success thing. So
it worked out.
It
really worked out.
And Lucy was with me pretty much every hour of that. And I mean, I think that was like trial by fire right there.
A little bit. I thought it was kind of funny that I was sort of stationed in the hallway so Whitney could shoot in here in the studio, and all of the other people who have business offices in this building would come, and I was right across from the bathrooms.
Yep.
So after like the 4th day of people, going to the bathroom after their lunch, they were like, is this where you work?
Is this what you do? Or are you just taking over the hallway? So anyway, problems with not having 2 separate spaces, but it all worked out well.
That's great. I met a lot of other people in your building that way.
I know, isn't it great? My building's the best. Like the people that work here, they're kind of like my work family, because for so long it was just me and sometimes Winston. So if I didn't have clients that day, I would be like just sitting here hanging out.
Yeah.
And so I go visit my buds. My peeps. So our specific content for today is talking about Dress for Success, which was, I think, amazing for both of us. I think that was like really the thing that I'd been driving towards for a really long time. I've been planning the Dress for Success headshots for a couple, months, 4 months.
Yeah. Well, we discussed it in my interview over those greyhounds.
Oh my gosh, did we? I forgot about that. Oh, that's great. So what was your impression of that day? What was your takeaway from that day?
I think that day, more than any other day so far, has really exemplified what this business is all about. I got to see the women when they first came in before they had their hair and makeup done, and they came in one person and they left a couple hours later a completely different person. And just they were glowing, and not just because of the bronzer. It was really, really special, and I think that that's the whole goal of Ivory House, and you nailed it.
It was phenomenal. I had no idea what to expect from that day. I had never met these women before. I really didn't know who was showing up, and that was actually, that's pretty normal for me. I don't know. Sometimes I know, a lot of times I've at least met the person once before they're in the studio with me, but more and more that's not the case. So I'm not necessarily always worried about meeting new people at all, obviously, but I just had no idea what to expect. And that day and everyone involved exceeded my expectations.
Absolutely.
Like our hair and makeup stylists that were there, they gave their time and talent all day long for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 10 to 4 and it was, I mean, like fun, but like when you're on your feet for 6 hours.
It took a lot of energy from everybody, especially you. I mean, for everybody.
But like when you're face to face with somebody and you really are enthusiastic and giving your all and like present for them, I think that's when I think about like giving energy, that's where the most of it comes from. Mm-hmm. I know I was like, I think I went to bed at like 6:30 that night.
You did.
Was it? Yeah. I was like, signing off.
Yeah.
Bye. So Lucy really got to be in the getting ready space. One of my fabulous office mates here lent us their workspace for the day because we couldn't all fit in my studio.
Yeah.
So that was phenomenal because usually hair and makeup artists come in and they're like in a corner or like they don't have enough outlets or whatever. And so it's always like this difficult, like where am I going to be working today? And our the guys at VGI really brought their A game and let us use their space.
Shout out, John.
I know. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
We'll find you on Facebook. So I was in here shooting, and I also had a video crew in here, and they also brought their A game. And I was expecting like just kind of like a little video thing happening, and it's going to be a video thing.
I cannot wait.
I know.
To see that.
I'm so excited. I had very like low expectations of this because I just wanted something to document, and I think we're going to have something really cool.
Yeah.
So super pumped about that. But the shooting was happening in here, so I was constantly photographing people, so I didn't get to like hang out with the transformation. Can you tell me a little bit about like what you guys talked about or what the vibe was in that room?
Yeah, it was very, very like women supporting women in that room, which I loved.
Yeah.
But even from the first stylist who got there, and like you mentioned, like everyone needed outlets.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit concerned at first that people would kind of be like vying for the best natural light and the most outlets, and you know, like it's a large space that we were in, but there were a lot of people.
Yeah.
And within seconds, it was very clear to me that everyone was just like collaborative and just supportive and like, oh, do you need more bobby pins? And you can use my ring light and all this. It was just so cool. And then Jody, the Dress for Success leader.
Yep, executive director, co-founder.
Yeah. She was just coaching everyone, and she was all smiles and hugging everyone, and it was just so much gratitude. And then the women started showing up, the clients, and some of them were pretty nervous at first, and then they'd sit down in the chair and, you know, they'd get their hair done, and the stylist would be kind of coaxing some information out of them, and then before we knew it, they were just sharing their stories, and they had the most incredible stories. They were just, they had the biggest hearts, and it was just so cool to see them come out of their shells over that time, and then to see them come out of the studio after Whitney. Most of them were like drying their eyes, first of all, not letting their makeup run.
That was a thing.
One woman, Jasmine, her fiance showed up with a bouquet of flowers. It was the cutest.
So this dude walks in. There are 25 women in this room, and
we're
he
like
walks in.
Power women.
Oh
too,
yeah, like
point.
everybody's, you know, and all these women are feeling so confident and ready, and he walks in with a bouquet of flowers, and I was like, oh my gosh, you can stay all day.
Yeah.
You're amazing. And they, you might know their story a little bit better, but they've been together for a really long time.
They've been together for a long time. I can tell you that Jasmine is going to graduate next year with her master's degree in social work after 10 years in school.
10 years with 3 kids?
3 kids.
Yeah.
She'd been in school for like most of their collective lives.
Yeah.
I think she'd been with her fiance for a while, but
Yeah.
she told me after he showed up with the flowers that he had been at work all day. He went home, put on a suit, bought flowers for her.
I didn't know that.
And came here. He could have gone to bed. He could have made some ramen and chilled on the couch.
Yeah.
But he showed up for his lady.
He really
and
did.
honestly, the rest of us.
Yeah.
It was.
That gave us all some, like, I don't know, sometimes you just need a little bit of, like, that was some hope right there.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was incredible.
And one of the first women, Delia, she hadn't been photographed in forever. And I could tell she was really, really nervous. Like, said, you know, I only want one picture. Like, I really don't need a lot. And by the time she saw herself in the mirror with her hair and makeup done, I was like,
she looked phenomenal.
She looked phenomenal.
It was
amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah. And just, I mean, there's that. I always say, like, a lot of the work is done by, you know, if you're getting your hair and makeup done and you're preparing for this experience, a lot of the experience is getting ready for it. And taking yourself seriously and taking a moment to really put a lot of time and attention to how you look, how you present yourself. Because when you are getting your photograph taken in this setting, it really calls for you to take yourself seriously. And I think a lot of times when we're just running out of the house during the day, I don't think about this stuff. I think about it probably more than other people because I'm very, very frequently either doing something like this or photographed. So I have to actually think about that. But for the most people,
I don't.
Yeah, you don't have to think about that regularly. Oh, probably more now.
I probably should.
More now, because I'll be thrown in front of the camera a lot.
Yeah.
But that experience in and of itself is phenomenal. And then to come into the studio and I didn't really get a chance to talk to the women ahead of time because I was in here, but they came around the corner and they looked amazing.
So beautiful.
Like the best versions of themselves. They were in their, you know, their favorite outfits, their most professional attire, and they just looked spot on. And you know, it starts like every other shoot. There's nothing different about the shooting process for me. I think what was a little different was how unexpected. They didn't expect what they saw.
Yeah.
And I photographed these women exactly how I photographed every other person that walks in this door. But they weren't expecting to see what they saw. And the reactions I got, I mean, at least, I don't want to over exaggerate, but most people cried. Including myself.
Cried.
It was a day of tears.
I was in this room watching somebody get their photos taken, and I was here for 45 seconds. I was like, I gotta go.
I need to excuse myself. And that was phenomenal. And Jasmine, actually the same person, I showed her an image on the back of the camera, and she looked at me and she said, "That's who I always thought I was." Like that, yeah, right? I know. And I was like, that's the whole point, because I really think that when you have an image that you feel confident, you're like, that's me.
Yeah.
That is me. That is me looking my best. That is me confident. That's me strong. If you have an image that represents that and that you can reference all the time when you're not feeling any of those things, I think that's incredibly powerful for anyone.
And especially for these women from Dress for Success who have been through the most insane struggles. Like, we heard from a woman who has 9 children, and her dog saved their lives by barking in the middle of the night and getting them up, and she realized there was an electrical fire in the kitchen and their whole house burned down.
And that was very recent.
That was almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
And they lost everything. They'd been living in hotels and an apartment. They finally settled like recently, but that's just one of their stories. There's a dozen more.
Well, and then Sharon, she, older woman and has worked at Walmart in the craft section, I believe.
Yeah.
And she came in and she, she's wearing rings around her neck. And so I asked her about that. Like, what are these? And she's like, she told me about her husband who passed away, and they were high school sweethearts. And they, that was all, all of the love she needed and all the love she ever knew. And she shared that within seconds of me meeting her. And I think it's because she'd been warmed up in the glam team room. But there were so many stories like that. We have a few interviews that you'll see on the video when that appears in the world that are so powerful. A lot of the women that end up in Dress for Success have had histories of domestic violence. Most of them are single moms.
Mm-hmm. Some are transitioning from prison or something like that. Just major life obstacles. And I think that from everything that they've been through, to have a photo of themselves, like Jasmine said, looking the way that she thought she looked, that's just incredible.
Yeah. So we are actually today we're pressing the send button to send all of those out to everyone. I promised that I would deliver one image to each person. They're all getting 10 because who in the world can pick? How can you I was not going to do that hard job. So all the stylists and all of the clients and everybody involved with this project will be getting those images soon, and I can't wait to share more of them on the blog. We'll be getting that up, I think, this afternoon.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to add?
I guess thank you for doing that. I mean, I had nothing to do with the preparation or the idea or anything, but like that experience alone, like I said, really cemented what Ivory House is all about, and it was just one of the coolest experiences I've had. So.
Well, thank you, because I literally could not have done it without you.
Woo,
teamwork! So you'll be seeing a lot more of Lucy. We've got some, again, because I don't like to sleep all that much. We've got some other really big things happening in the next couple months, so stay tuned for that, and Lucy will be around and hanging out with me and probably joining me here every once in a while to talk about those big things, and we'll see you next week.
Bye!
Bye, guys!